Warning: the following podcast contains chilling stories and accounts of the unexplained. Listener discretion is advised. Some tales may be too unsettling for the faint of heart. If you dare to continue, proceed with caution and prepare for the unknown. You have been warned. Into the world of Explain Strange Podcast. We are at Explain Strange Podcast, and we're at season 2, and we're actually at episode 2. The first one went very well. I had a great time talking with Nathaniel Elwell. That was a good one. Catch number 1 if you can, and see what you think about the haunted doll. Also, today we're going to have Toni Shapiro. Toni Shapiro is waiting in their waiting room. I'm going to bring her in just a second here. We're going to talk about. She's a writer, and she does kind of like paranormal, I believe. I'm not sure exactly. She sent me some pages to read. Very interesting, but I'm very curious to find a few things out that I read on that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Toni Shapiro, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is episode 2, Explain Strange Podcast, season 2. No big deal. I've already made the announcement. I told everybody who you are. This is Toni Shapiro again, and we're going to go ahead and do episode 2 here. Toni, again, like I said earlier, Toni Shapiro had sent me some writings and pages that she had written, and I read them, and kind of interesting. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I think, why don't we do this to start it out, Toni? Let's let you tell us who you are, and then I want to ask just a little bit on the. Then I'll take it from there. How's that?
Please.
Who are you? Tell us who you are, what you do, what you're involved in.
Toni Shapiro, as you mentioned, with Paranormal Tendency and Haunted Soul Productions.
Well, I was looking at. I went through all 3 of them. I didn't get to read the last one, but I'm not sure in exact. Well, I read it, but I didn't finish it. But the order that they came in. Why don't I let you start with? Or I'll ask you, on my first paranormal encounter, okay, was that your personal, or was that just...
Yeah, that's all of those that I sent you are my personal encounters.
Oh, okay. And
that's where it started, actually. I had, on social media, I'm not that new to it, or not that old to it, is what I mean to say. And I was on X and started talking a little bit about some of my encounters, just lightly, because when I grew up, in the 60s, nobody talked about this sort of thing. Nobody, it wasn't prevalent at all like it is today. So when I got on social media, I was blown away by how many people openly share about their encounters. And so I found encouragement from that and started sharing bits and pieces of mine, and I was asked to write an article about my first encounter, so I did, and it kind of blew up from there. I just started telling basically as many of them that I've had, but I've had so many more than the 3 that I've written to you.
Yeah, but I'm curious as to, that's some good writing that I read, and I'm just curious, have you written actual books and published, or are you thinking about it, or where are we at with that?
Well, no, I've been thinking about doing that. I started one, but I haven't. I go back and forth between that and Paranormal Tendency and writing, little clips and things like that. The stories are easier for me in bits and pieces because they stir up a lot of emotion. When I wrote the one, my first encounter, it was really difficult to get through because my entire innocence, it mentally was just snatched from me. That encounter was, to me, the most terrifying, even though I've been attacked. That was the worst one because it opened my eyes to, beyond the veil of human comprehension and 4 years old. I mean, I can only speculate I was 4 years old because I can see it like a picture going on in my mind, and I remember my size and things like that. So I just put 1964 at 4 years old. But I could have very well had encounters prior and just didn't understand it. I didn't understand it then either, but they seem to have escalated. It's like my eyes were open to this stuff at such a young age that I thought, okay, this is life. This is just how life is, and I should expect, other things to happen, and they did, you know. But I mean, when you're little, you don't really reason 100% like that. You just you don't know
Run.
what to do.
We just run.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was hysterical. Climbing over my mom, and this thing just comes out of the corner of the room. I was awakened by.
Why don't you? I tell you what. Why don't you just go through that one for a little
Okay.
bit? Let people
Yeah,
kind of just
sure.
know the idea of what had happened on that one. Because rather
Okay.
than me try to ask you, I'll just let you highlight it. So why don't you go with that on my first
Okay, sure.
paranormal encounter? Let's just do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, sure. Okay, so, like I said, it was about 1964. I would sleep. My sister and I would switch rooms with either our grandmother or my mom. My father had passed away right before I was born, so this night I slept with my mom, and Maria was in with my grandmother, and I don't know what woke me up. I can tell you, I can say it was an energy. I could say I could feel something staring at me. I'm not sure, but as close to that feeling as possible. And I woke up and opened my eyes. Everybody's asleep. This is middle of the night, and probably around 2 or 3, because that's when most of my encounters happen, or a lot of them anyway. And I just looked over at the corner because I was closest to the corner of the room, and there was a little boy standing there. The little boy was probably, I would say, as I look back and see it in my mind, because I'm very pictorial, he was probably about 7 years old. And he's just staring at me, but he didn't look like any of the other little kids, that I played with. He was, he was semi-illuminated. I can see that now, and know how to give you these terminologies in a sense, but I couldn't back then. But his brows were furrowed, like he was just either desperate or apologetic, or I can't tell you, but he was very sad. And as he stared at me, I just looked at him. I wasn't scared. It was more like, here's this kid in the bedroom, and I don't know why he's here, But when you're little, you're not really frightened about everything like you would today. Go, what?
Yeah,
you know?
your curiosity level's a little
Yeah,
different. So
exactly. So my curiosity, like you said, was just looking at him, and we stared at each other for a little while, and it was almost like a child conversation. We didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. I didn't bother to wake up my mother. As a child, you're so innocent. You're just like, okay, this little boy's come over. Maybe he's going to play with me. But it wasn't long after that this skeletal figure, literally it's the best way I can describe it. It was like a skeletal figure stepped out from behind him, and what I remember so vividly were these big bulging blue eyes. The movement is not fluid like you and I. It's very jagged, almost like a strobe light. And it goes kind of slow, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like that. It's not fluid at all. But he stepped out from behind the little boy, and looked right at me. And at that point, I was scared to death. There was no way I could even move. I mean, I couldn't breathe. Everything was trapped inside me, and I was just petrified. As I said, he walked back out. He walked out from behind the boy, and looked right at me. And again, as I said, I couldn't move, and I couldn't alert my mom or anything, even though she was like inches away from me. So he started to step towards this cabinet. My mom had this cabinet in the bedroom. It was right underneath the window that I would keep all my supplies in, school. I started school at 4 years old, by the way. So school supplies, my crayons, coloring books, and a pair of dull-edged scissors like little kids used in those days. You remember them, those
Yeah.
metal dull-edged scissors. So I had a pair of those in there, and he stepped over, and again here's this strobe light movement, stepping over to the cabinet. Now, I call him a skeletal man, although he was like white, like a gray, not a gray, but a white. It seemed like there was flesh on his face, but there wasn't. If that makes any sense, because he was able to manipulate even his facial expressions. It's really creepy. Where he could smile, and even his grin would get wider. And I mean, you could tell that he was just loving the fear that was in me. You could just tell. And so he steps over to the cabinet, and he opens the door of the cabinet and reaches in, turns around, to make sure I'm still watching him, like as if I would turn away. There's no way as I said, I'm just scared to death. And he pulls out my scissors. And he comes toward me with this clipping, just clipping the void, clipping the air. And oh my gosh, I scrambled it. Finally, I could scream. I scrambled underneath the blankets, up and over my mom, and huddled as close as I could next to her. And I'm screaming hysterically and crying and everything. And before I know it, my mom's, she's like, she doesn't know what's going on. Before I know it, I can't even breathe. But I'm too afraid to anywhere that's away from my mom. So I lifted the blanket just a tiny bit because I'm underneath the blanket, and that thing was like inches from my face with the scissors. Well, I mean, now by this time, my hysteria has already reached a whole new level. My sister and my grandmother come running in, and everybody's going to check me over. Finally, I can't remember if my mom switched the light on or my grandmother or somebody did, and they had to check me over to see if maybe I got stung by something or a spider bite or something. I was fine. Fine, physically, and so this is a level of hysteria that I never displayed. I wasn't that kind of kid. Never. As a matter of fact, I was a really tough little kid. I could get hurt and stuff and not even cry. So I mean, that's just the way I was. I was a tomboy girl, climbing the trees with the boys and everything in the little neighborhood we had. But so I switched bedrooms with my sister, and I went in with my grandmother, and Maria went in with my mom. And I didn't even sleep that night. But the next morning I had to go back into my mom's room because my shoes were in there. And I walk in, and I'm scared. As I walk in, I'm certain that this thing is still in there. Mom is already up. She was probably already at work. I'm sure Grandma was making breakfast or something. My sister was in the living room, so I'm walking in there by myself. And honest to goodness, I was scared to death. But anyway, when I rounded the corner and my shoes weren't there, but then I turned back the other way and went over to the side where it would have been my mom's side of the bed, and my doggone scissors were on the floor. I never deviated from that practice. Everything always went in the cabinet. Everything went in the cabinet. I never ever not put my things away. I'm that way today.
I'm going to just ask you, not to rudely interrupt, but I'm just curious on this,
No.
and there's a reason I'm curious, and I'll explain that in just a second.
Okay.
You, when you saw this, first, the little boy, okay,
Uh-huh.
you said that he had like a glow to him, maybe?
Oh yeah, it's
Like a
semi-illuminated because
fluorescent, like a some kind of a just he was lit up basically, right?
well yeah, I mean I could see in the room anyway because the shade had the street lamp, you know,
Okay,
the street the little it was a little cul-de-sac we lived in,
but he
and
wasn't
it
self illuminated.
self-illuminated.
Yeah, like was he glowing?
Oh no,
Okay,
not necessarily like that. It was more like I mean, I could just see him. It
okay,
was very easily to see. I would say that he
he was just
probably had
visible.
some illumination. You
Yeah,
know, there was a brightness to him, but it was very sad. You know, as I said, you know, I mean, it was easy to see him. It was just like looking at you right now. It was easy to
yeah.
see him.
So when the skeleton part came out, was he the
Hmm.
same? The skeleton thing the same?
Yeah,
Visible,
like I said,
invisibly.
he yeah, you know, I could see him well enough in this room. Like I said, it was just barely any light coming through from the shade, and it was easy to see him. But because it was like white, it was white. I mean, it would be just the same as what the color of bone is. You know, it's
Yeah,
white. It wasn't like he was illuminated in a good way. You know,
right.
it's not like seeing a beautiful spirit of some sort. You know, it's nothing like that at all.
Like a madder gray white kind of a deal. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's a variation. The boy looked. The boy, he didn't look like the regular kids that I played with in our little cul-de-sac, but I mean, I was little. I wasn't judging them. You know, with the house that we lived in with my first paranormal encounter, you know, I had to, you know, in just the recent years, I've been studying more about it. You know, learning, you know, different things and different hauntings and such, and it's my belief that this person either this because he was a man at one time. I totally believe that. I don't believe. I mean, I call him a demon because you know he terrified me, but I believe he was a man at one time. I believe the little boy was a little boy, you know, also too. And I also think that um, he was just very wicked, and he took that same energy with him. When you mentioned the this grayish white, well, that's kind of like what bone looks like. You know,
Yeah,
I can't tell you that it looked that I seen like ribs and all this stuff. I just seen this figure. You know, um, the skull itself was exactly as close to the picture that is on my on the story that I shared with you, and then there's a little boy standing in front of it. I created that picture because I needed to get past this, and let me tell you, that was really difficult to create that picture. It
yeah.
really was because once I saw those eyes, I was like, "There you are, you so and so." You know, it's very traumatizing. I never slept in my mother's bedroom again. I never slept with my mother again, ever,
Well, with
because
me,
that's how scared I was.
you know, sometimes some of these things, you know, growing up and I have had ghost encounters when I was younger too, and this was somewhere
Hmm.
else a few years later or whatever. But so a lot of these things make us a little stronger than you know
Oh,
mentally versus
absolutely.
you know not physically but mentally. I mean, strength doesn't always have to be in the muscle. So,
No,
and that's
that's true. That's true. And quite honestly, I'm sad that I had to see that kind of thing when I was that tiny, but I knew what I was looking for thereafter. You know,
yeah,
whatever I was looking at, I knew it wasn't of this world thereafter, or you know, certainly not of the living. Um, I had some real creepy encounters in my life, really bad ones. You know, in that same house, I had a little friend from school. We were about 7 years old, and she came over to spend the night. And my mom had rolled out the Riviera bed. You know how you had those couches that roll out to a bed,
yeah,
and we were in the living room, so I was closest to the fireplace, and me and Amy were just in the bed, and we're giggling and having a good time and watching TV. And my mom comes in, she's like, "It's time to go to sleep." And so she leaves the lights on because this house was, as I said, it was old. There was only one bathroom. It was only 2-bedroom house, so there was a bathroom in between the 2 bedrooms, as Jack and Jill design. And I'm laying in closest to the fireplace so that my little friend would have more room to get out of the bed if she had to go to the restroom. And we're facing each other, and she's pretty much fallen asleep, and I'm dozing off, but I feel something. Now, just having that one experience, believe me, I'm sure you know that. You know what you're feeling. And, you know, I never watched a spooky movie until I was like 14 years old or something like that. So I was never subjected to any kind of horror. We just didn't watch things like that. And I could feel the strange energy, and I just opened my eyes, not knowing if I was just dreaming, maybe I dozed off, but I could feel something come right from behind me. And I call him the fireplace shadow because I don't know what else to call him. I don't know if he was already came around to my side or what. So I just figure he came out of the fireplace. But it was a big, dark, black, like cloaked figure. It's not really cloaked. It just looks like that because of the form. No face. It seemed like he kind of just bent over and observed me, and I'm like petrified, of course, and it didn't really step around the bed. It just kind of shifted that way, and went to the foot of the bed and looked at it. I gotta say, looked at us because it was, but I couldn't see any eyes or anything, but it was facing us. Amy's still asleep, and I'm grateful for that. And then it again shifts around onto her side, but it's doing this very slowly. It's not like, so like quick, like one point and then the next point and the next point. It goes really slowly, and then it seemed like it bent over to observe her. Then it just went backwards and just descended. That was the only other encounter at that house, but I had others in other houses.
Yeah. Going
Have you ever seen a shadow figure?
No,
No.
I've never. I've never. Of course, I'm not saying that you have. I'm just making sure that anybody understands that what I'm going to say right here. I'm not going to. I'll say it my way. I ain't dogging nobody. Okay, everybody's got their own. Everybody does their own. But I've never done any ghost hunting. I've never gone out. Never tried it. These are occurrences that what I've mentioned is just happened to me. I wasn't looking for nothing. And if I ever mention any others on this podcast, Slap just wants to make sure everybody understands. Yeah. It's only that I went through it. I didn't go looking for nothing. So and I don't do that. So, yeah. I'm not an expert, and I'm not an expert at all. So we'll just make sure we all.
Neither am I. I just know from experience. I'm not a ghost hunter either. Not again, like you. I have all the respect in the world for them. But when ghosts come to you or spirits come to you, you don't. I don't want to go out looking for them. Now I have a ovulus that will put out words and stuff. Like I've walked through cemeteries, but it's not really. I've done it in the daytime. I don't really. And I have a spirit box I've never used. I have what else do I have? I have a meter of some sort, but I haven't used it either. I bought this equipment because I was going to use it at a particular hotel, thinking, okay. And then when I got there, I thought, maybe I don't want to do this, but I did a little bit, only with the ovulus when I was playing a record in the hotel room. But it's kind of scary. I have a lot of respect for people who do this, do paranormal investigations, because they are actually seeking it. And I guess you're like me. I'm like, I don't want to see it. I wish I didn't have this ability. I wish I never had it. It's not a happy trait to have, not for me anyway. I've only had maybe one encounter that was semi-pleasant. The rest have been terrifying.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, any any one of the any kind of event, should I say, as when you're a kid is one thing. You know, but when you start
mhm,
growing older and you're starting to realize what it is, or you're recognizing, or you have more ability to try to, you know, translate what's actually going on, or deviate, or
mhm,
whatever you want to say. But experiences kind of like, it's like you said. I mean, I'm not. It's not that I'm afraid to go out. I'm not afraid at all. It's just that that's just something I'm not going to go chasing down. It's like Bigfoot. If I'm not. I don't have no desire to go look for him. You know, not me. You know, I'd like to hear what people's got to
oh,
have to say
absolutely,
about it.
yeah, it's
I don't mind
interesting.
watching that. If you got evidence, show it. If you want to come on this podcast, come on, let's talk. But don't invite me.
Yeah,
I'm a military guy. I'm out. I don't do anything like that no more. You know, unless
yeah,
it has to be a real emergency for me to get out that door doing what I used to do. And believe me,
yeah,
I have no plans. You know,
yeah. I get
but
you. I get
yeah. So
you.
anything anybody's up to and interesting, whatever. Hey man, if that whatever floats your boat, man, you like it. I mean, that's up to you. You have a good
Yeah,
time, man. Have at it. You know,
yeah,
but
yeah. I
I
understand
wouldn't have
that.
taken you where I've been either. Believe me.
Yeah, well,
I
yeah,
promise that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
on the
Malevolent.
malevolent, I don't know why I
Uh-huh.
can't say it. I have a speech impediment because of my cancer. So
It's
some
no
words
worries at
are
all.
hard for me to twist into the. Anyway,
Don't I get them too. I get tongue twisted too. So
yeah,
or tongue tied.
tongue tied, yeah,
Yeah,
twisted.
yeah.
I noticed you. I mean, I understand your mother and all, and you know, of course, I'm sorry about that years back, but the 555 for
Yeah.
the fives. What
Hmm.
what do you really believe create, or why the 555s? I mean, what do you what makes you believe that? I know some things have happened, but I guess not what makes you believe it, but what why do you think the number five was the one? Why couldn't it be a seven? Why couldn't it be a six? What are your
Because
thoughts?
my mother died May 5th.
No, I understand that, but there was
Why couldn't it be? I
other.
have no idea, honestly. That is something that I don't understand. Is they call them angel numbers. They call these things when you see something in sequence like that. You know, like with my sister, I woke up with 222 3 nights in a row, and she died 1222. So there was the 22. Um, I don't understand it because to me, it's like it's every time I've ever seen those numbers like that. I mean, really seen those numbers. I mean, I'll see them every now and then still today, and I think about my mom and my sister. But it it's it came with devastating news, you know.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, I know if it is something divine and angels are trying to tell me and warn me something's coming, which maybe quite honestly they could have been. But it was with those numbers because with it followed. With my mom, as you know in the story, I was in Louisiana, and that number just kept coming up. It just kept popping up on everything. I mean, it would be on my clock radio. It would be on, or I mean, car radio clocks. It would be, billboards. It was just the weirdest thing. And here I am in Louisiana. My mom's in California. And I called my son, and he told me Grandma died. Yeah, that's his grandma. Um, and of course, I was devastated. But uh, she died May 5th, the fifth month of the fifth day, on Cinco de Mayo.
yeah. I
you
was gonna
know,
say I think that's, even though I have a kind of an Asian side, I do have Hispanic in me. And I was like, I think that's kind of like Cinco de Mayo. I think people you
de Mayo,
celebrate something on that.
de
Uh,
Mayo, and then my sister, she passed away on 12/22. I woke up 3 nights in a row. I mean, just like that, just a snap. My digital clock was right next to my bed, and here's 2:22 a.m. 3 nights in a row. I don't think that's very common. There was something that was telling me, watch out for something's coming. Because
mm,
the first time was with my mom, and the second time was with my sister. Um, now, now, coincidence? Maybe, maybe. It's pretty far fetched coincidence to me.
yeah. I mean, anything
You know,
over three times, but basically, I don't know if we're going to play the coincidence card anymore, because,
I,
I mean,
yeah,
that's
that's
how I
kind of
see
like
it,
how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that time, when I moved, to Louisiana. I was there to study jazz and blues, and so I left there, came back to California to look after my sister because even though she was 5 years older, she was a wreck. We both were, but she was really a wreck. And so I just moved back. I stayed with her for about a year and then bought my own little house. And I was in that little house. It was wonderful. It was me and my dog, and we were there. We were actually there the whole time for about 14 years. And 7 years into it, I never had 7 or 8 years into it. I never had a problem in that house. But the house was built in 1932, and it wasn't. It had a back room that was added on, and that's what I used as a master bedroom. The original front bedroom was the first room as you walked into the door. The house is only like 900 square feet. That included the garage, so you were talking about a real tiny house.
Yeah.
And there was only one bathroom, and it was accessible only from that original bedroom. I don't know what possessed me to decide that me and my dog were going to sleep in that bedroom. I have no idea. But I set up a chaise lounge chair for me and put her bed, her cushy little bed on the floor close by. And again, here's another weird thing is I don't know why I shut the door. I was the only person in that house, but I shut the door, but the door did not have a lock. There was no locks on any of the bedroom doors, which are, again, only 2 bedrooms. And there was no lock. I can't even remember if there was a lock on the bathroom because I didn't invite a lot of people over. This was my house. It was just me and my dog.
The
but
dog
I closed
was
the door.
Bonnie?
Yeah, Bonnie. Yeah,
Okay.
Bonnie. And
And
she's
that
passed away
was
now.
Bonnie, not Barney, guys.
No, Bonnie.
I say
Yeah,
things I
Bonnie.
say things a little weird sometimes, but it was Bonnie, Bonnie. Okay, go ahead.
And I was asleep. We were sound asleep. It was just. It seemed like because the room is really small. I guess it was maybe 10 by 10, if that's about right. There was one from the entrance of the room. There was the immediate to your left would be the bathroom, real tiny little bathroom, and then cross a few steps and there's this long closet that was like just a long skinny closet, and that was all that was in that room except for storage, a big drafting desk. I had an armoire, and I had instruments in my closet, in that closet that I kept in there. And I'm just sleeping facing the window, and Bonnie's basically kind of underneath the window where the window is. And again, here we got street light, enough of that. And I didn't have a radio in there or a TV or anything, and everything just seemed to be so quiet because we were really closest to the street. It didn't make any sense. This was, this is in an area that wasn't exactly always quiet, but it was just quiet. And I fell asleep, as I said, we were both asleep, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I was ripped up off of that chaise lounge chair without touching the floor. And I was certain that there was an intruder in the house. I mean, lifted up and tossed around like a rag doll, like a toy. And I'm screaming and screaming, and my Bonnie, she's crying at the same time. I'm wondering, is there 2 intruders? Did somebody else? Were there 2? And I'm not hearing one single word. Nobody is saying anything. It's just me screaming and Bonnie whimpering. And I somehow I don't know if this whatever it was let go of me or what, but I was able to scramble to the door. And I could not open that door no matter how much I tried. This is like being in a horror flick. And honest to goodness, it's like being in a horror scene in a movie. And my dog and I had star rolls. I couldn't get the door open. And I mean, I'm turning it and I'm pulling and it just wouldn't budge. I was yanked from the door and thrown headlong into the bathroom, and headlong. Basically, my body was slammed up in by the right above the toilet seat, there, right above the toilet, there was a ceramic towel rack, and there was a small space in between the toilet and the shower. Okay, just real small space because, like I said, the bathroom was tiny, and I was slammed up against that towel rack, that ceramic towel rack, and shattered it, and I kind of just spilled onto the floor in between the toilet and the sink, and I mean, I couldn't breathe. My air was knocked out of me completely, and I'm just like barely can even like breathe at all. And Bonnie is still crying. I don't know what's going on with her, and I can't even move. I don't know. Still haven't heard a sound from anybody. There's no voices, no, nothing. And I'm thinking, if there's two intruders, at least even one. I mean, this room's so small and tight. How in the world am I, sitting there flailing my arms and trying to fight back and not connecting with anything? I never connected with anything. And I can't say that what I felt was actual hands, but I don't know how to describe it, but it was almost like I'm being squeezed by this force. And I barely got my air back in my lungs, and I was basically swished out of the bathroom.
So
I'm
that's
telling you, if
like
you've ever seen a movie like that,
like a
that would
poltergeist,
have
I
been
guess,
me.
kind of a thing, right? Poltergeist, I think they call that. Would that be a poltergeist?
People have said use the word poltergeist, but poltergeist is really, the definition of poltergeist is noisy ghost or noisy spirit. And I don't know that they're necessarily prone to attack. I'm sure that they can get that way, but a poltergeist usually just makes a lot of noise in your house and causes things to fall. Attacking me was this is on a whole different level. This is malevolent. This is a malevolent entity that attacked me. And I'll tell you why I think so as soon as I'm almost done with this part. And I'm yanked out of the bathroom, or swooshed out of the bathroom, tossed around a little bit more. My Bonnie's still crying like she's being hurt. And this time I'm lifted up one more time and tossed headlong into the closet. I hit my head so hard that, I nearly just blacked out from that alone, because I had these instrument cases, and they were just like hard as a rock, and I was tossed in there with such a force that, I'm surprised I even survived. And again, the room is small, and I had this huge drafting desk, which made the area itself even smaller, because I've got this big drafting desk there, an armoire and a little chest of drawer dresser, and I'm yanked out by my ankles, and I really don't remember how much more might have happened, because I actually passed out. I lost consciousness. And when I woke up, it was daylight. Well, not obviously, but it was daylight. The sun was coming up, and my dog is just pacing around the whole room, whimpering, crying, trying to get my attention. And I opened my eyes, and I was scared to death to open my eyes. I thought, oh God, what was that? Are they still here? And of course, there was nobody. It wasn't a human being. It certainly wasn't anything of a living. And I had a real hard time getting up. My vision was blurred. My ears were ringing. My ribs were burning like crazy. It hurt so bad. And I could still hardly breathe, on the regular, because they were so sore, and I just got beat up, my poor Bonnie, she did too. When
Did you ever figure out what that was, who it was? Was there anything pertaining to the house or pertaining to that house? Any research to check and find out?
Yeah,
anything?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting to that. Yeah.
Good.
And yeah, and what happened was, okay, so I got up, as I said, barely getting up, and I'm holding on to whatever I can, holding on to the floor, holding on to the small dresser to my right, and I go to the door, and it opened without a problem. It just opened, and my Bonnie, she just goes rushing by, and I couldn't get to the door yet. I sat down on a chair right outside the bedroom door, and finally got up and I let her out. Um, I got to tell you, I was scared to death. First off, I looked in that bedroom as I kind of turned around because I was right outside the bedroom, uh, sitting on the chair right outside, and my drafting desk was turned over. Everything that could be broken was broken. Clothes were everywhere. I woke up in a heap of broken everything and clothes. I mean, just everything was tossed all over the room. So, so when like, trying to get past it, I'm living in the house. I have no choice but to live in the house. I own it, and I can't just move. I didn't have those kind of funds, and so I had a hard time going anywhere near that bedroom. It was like it haunted me, and having to use the bathroom, I would just run in there and run back out. And my dog she never crossed the threshold again. She never did.
Wow.
And it was probably a couple months, maybe a few months or something like that. A neighbor across the street had uh, waved me over, and we're talking to each other. And she said, she goes, I don't know if I ever told you this, but we used to use your house for orgies.
The hell.
Yes. Before I bought the house, she and a select group of friends would use my house for orgies, seances, and whatever other rituals that they were doing. In my opinion, whatever it was, stayed dormant in that room. In that room. Now, I don't know if most of the activities were in that room or what, because I I feel like I'm pretty intuitive when it comes to something that's paranormal, but this thing tricked the living daylights out of me. He tricked me. It tricked me. And I never had a problem in that house. That was the only time. And I never had a problem afterwards because I never went in that room again. For whatever reason, it was either concentrated in that room. I would guess that it would just stay dormant till it had the prime opportunity to attack. Why it wouldn't have came and got me in the other room, I don't know. But something about that particular spot, that room, was where it was most. Anyway, and yeah, I was shocked when she told me that. And everything clicked. I knew, okay, that's what happened. Now I know what it is, you know. So there was nothing I could do about it. I still had to stay in the house for a good another 7 years before I moved. That's when I got married. And, I I sold the house, and the new owners, they went ahead and they knocked down the wall that was that same wall from that bedroom into the living room. They knocked that wall down, and they just did all kinds of
Renovations.
yeah, renovations.
Uh-huh.
And as far as I know, they never had a problem. But here's the other thing, the other side of that coin. When I bought the house, the the owner at that time, I got to meet him and everything, and he was a contractor. And he did a bunch of renovations. Okay, so he did a bunch of renovations right before I bought the house. As a matter of fact, he was in there doing, paint and other
Yeah.
things. He
Make
added
ready.
on that.
Yeah.
What's that?
Make ready.
Yeah,
Didn't,
yeah,
yeah.
but he added on that back bedroom, the one that I used. Now I don't know if his renovations stirred up whatever was in there, or it was something that just lay dormant till it had the opportune time. But yeah, that's exactly what happened, and there was no love lost when I left the place, but
I guess there
but I
wasn't.
was glad that
I guess there wasn't. No love
no,
lost.
no, and like I said, it took months. It took months before I could feel even want to go in there and shower because, But what choice did I have? I didn't have
Yeah,
a choice.
when you say the word or mention the fact that there was seances and stuff, see, that's one thing that I don't. I mean, I don't want no part of that. I don't want to be involved in one. I'm not going to
Neither.
sit through one. Don't ask me. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. I'm
Well,
trying to
yeah. I
touch.
mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I have no no desire to
Desire.
do that because
Yeah.
after I got attacked, I mean, I wouldn't have done it before anyway either. But I got respect for people that go for that. I can't do it myself. Um, it, I don't know if with their seances or Ouija board, sessions or anything like that. I'm not sure if they might have opened a portal that they
Well,
didn't
that's the
close
thing, because
properly. Yeah.
they said that there was a lot of different things done, and I mean, I'm
Uh
sure
huh.
there were more
Yeah.
seances than there were orgies. I mean, I'm going to
Yeah.
say
I
that
mean,
because that's probably like more popular for people to really get into. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know anything
well,
about it. I
yeah.
don't know about either one of them. So.
No, yeah, neither do I. But I
So
mean,
I'm
I
sure
was really
even
shocked.
just knowing that they were doing that, the seance part, that tells me. I mean that's the light kicking in my head right now. Like, oh man, I know that brought something in there because I know the orgies didn't bring this beating up dude. I mean,
No,
this guy to beat you up or whatever.
probably not.
I
It's
mean, I
probably
wouldn't
not
think.
that.
You know,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and then 2020, you went to California. Is that what happened?
Oh yeah, I was already living in California.
Okay.
My husband and I, we had bought. Oh, I've got some other ones too, but those are the only ones I wrote about.
Yeah.
In 2020,
I'm
we
trying to make sure that I hit on all three of them before.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
all.
cool.
So,
Yeah, in 2020, we bought a house in the desert in Palm Desert area, out there by Palm Springs, and
I'm
I,
Texas. I don't know much about California.
oh,
Believe it or
okay,
not, I've never
okay.
even been there. So,
Okay, well, anyway, it's the desert area, and it's real nice. It's nice for retirees. There's a lot of us out there,
yeah.
and we bought this beautiful house. It's like in a community, all kinds of really wonderful people. But it was across the street from the cemetery. Now, cemeteries don't bother me at all. They don't. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't visit them at night, but they don't bother me. I can walk through the cemetery. I have no problem. I don't I don't think of them like that. And it was it was interesting because you got a lot of very famous stars are buried there in that cemetery. But then the pandemic hit,
Oh yeah.
and you know how everything started closing down, and my husband and I we weren't affected by it because of being retirees, and we had some beautiful views from our backyard and nice pool and we could enjoy, and so we were just basically in the house, and I was still writing, and at that time I was writing more of a book at that time than doing the articles, but I was sitting at this. I had my computer screen. Um, Actually, my back was like I had my back to the hallway, and so I could see the reflection from my computer screen. It was a black reflection till I booted it up, and so the pandemic started really hitting and affecting a lot of people. And whenever we would leave our community, we'd see funerals going on. I mean, left and right, and that was really sad. That was really sad. You'd have sometimes two, maybe more funerals in a day, and they would be back to back. I mean, like if they could have done them 7 days a week, they would have. That's just how many people were passing away, and I see them as you're leaving, and you try to keep a good thought for your sympathetic heart for the families and everything, because these funerals are going on without anybody there.
Yeah.
They're just being buried. People are just being buried. They couldn't have wakes or a funeral itself. They would just bury these people. And no, yeah, I found that to be sad. But I'm sitting at the computer, and again, as I said, I'm in the kitchen area, and my back is to the hallway. The bedrooms are all back here, um, and my husband's office, and the bathroom is right directly across the street, across the hall
Don't go
from
too
his
far. Don't go too
office,
far.
across the street, across the hall from his office, and I'm just getting ready to boot up my computer, and I see this shadow walk from my husband's office to the bathroom directly across. Now, this is like 2 o'clock, maybe 3 in the morning. That's my usual hours when I'm up and working. Um, I'm always up by, I am always up by 2 a.m., if not earlier. That's just my day-to-day routine. It's been that routine for several years now, a lot of years. And, but I thought, I looked, I could see the shadow, the figure that walked by there, the reflection. It looked like my husband. It was his height, and it looked like his profile. And he just stepped out from his office and just directly across the way to the bathroom. And I turned around right away, and I called his name, and no answer. And I thought, that's weird. You know what? Why is he up? And there were no lights on. Excuse me, except for the light in the over the island in the kitchen, and a small other light that was kind of right next to me. Um, but you could still see down the hall with like the little motion detector things, so you could see them, and I could perfectly see all the way down the hall, and but no sound or anything like that. And as I said, I turned around and called his name, and nothing. And I, thought, oh, that's weird, and I kind of got a little, little, I don't know, a little tingly, like, oh no, what's going on? It's like, oh, that just figures. So I got up, and I'm going down the hall, and like I said, nothing came back out of the bathroom. Nothing was in my husband's office. And I walked down the hall and opened the door. He's sound asleep. He never got up. Now,
It was
there's
like a
two.
doppelganger kind of a deal.
Well, yeah, maybe kind of like a doppelganger. Maybe, again, the reflection, I couldn't see like perfectly features. I'm just saying it was his height
Yeah.
and his size and
Build.
everything, but it obviously it wasn't him, and it just walked right past. Um, Now, I don't know what that was, or if it was a spirit that was just passing through. I mean, it could have been something from the cemetery. It could have been something from the land itself prior to the houses being built. I don't know. It could have been something coming out of my husband's office, because he's got all kinds of old sports memorabilia in there. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it was something attached to one of his
I'm gonna
sports
bank on
items.
that cemetery theory.
Huh?
I'm gonna bank.
That's what
I'm
I'm
gonna bank on
thinking.
the cemetery.
So so I mean, it made me nervous enough to go out and buy a laptop so I could sit on the couch and face the hallway instead. I mean, it really did. So it was probably about, I don't know, a few weeks later, or a couple of weeks, maybe later, and I'm sitting on the couch and got my laptop in my lap, and I could feel something staring at me. And I'm working. I'm, like I said, I'm working, and I could feel something staring at me. And I look at, again. This is the middle of the night, my usual time to work. And right in front of our fireplace was this small figure, probably about 2.5, no more than 3 feet in height. And people have asked me, was it a child? I have no idea. I have no idea, because all I could see I could see the shape. I could see its eyes. They were just like little hollow black holes. Um, Most portions of of the upper body, and then everything kind of melted down to, or not melted, but it really didn't have a form. But it stood there looking like it was looking at me, and believe me, I jumped up and thought, oh God, I'm not safe anywhere. Ran down the hall. Right when I jumped up, this thing just turned. It was facing, like I said, like my hand is to my face, further away, of course, and it just turned around and glided right through the fireplace.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. So several days later, maybe even a week, I'm not actually positive how this worked out, but my husband fell asleep in our guest bedroom while reading because he doesn't read in the same room with me when I'm sleeping because the light will keep me awake. So I have to, have to get my sleep and catch my sleep when I can. And it was just barely, the sun was barely rising, barely. There was just enough light in the room, and I don't sleep in the dark 100%. I refuse to sleep in the dark 100%. I haven't since I was a kid. So there's got to be a hallway light, and the hallway light was on, and probably our bathroom light might have been on too, but the hallway light was on, the door is wide open so that there's enough light coming into the bedroom because, like I said, I just, after everything I've been through in my life, as far as entities go, I will not sleep in the dark. Most nights I sleep with the TV on. My husband's gotten used to it, but I could feel something, and I don't know if, again, I don't know if it's like this electrifying feeling, but you kind of tingle. You can feel eyes on you.
Yeah, it's like an energy. You can sense it. Yeah,
exactly, and you can feel eyes on you. And I was like closest to the window, and I'm facing toward the hallway door, or towards the door that leads out to the hallway, and my husband would be the first one that would be closest to that door, but he wasn't there. And I'm facing that way, and when I opened my eyes, I took a second to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing. I was like, I had to process it, but you got to process it real fast. It looked like this thing was either step on the other side of the bed, would have been my husband's side, standing on the floor and looking over the edge of the bed. And it was that same little creature, that same little entity, looking right at me. And believe me, I blew those covers off so fast, and I was like, okay, it's time to get up. I'm like, I don't speak to them. When I see them, I don't speak to them. Unless I blurt out some sort of prayer or something, but I don't speak to them. And it freaked me out really bad. I begged my husband, don't ever do that again. I don't care. I'll put something over my face. Don't ever leave me in the room by myself, But I don't know if the pandemic had something to do with this, or, again, or the cemetery.
Like you said, during that time, there were a lot of going in that cemetery. I mean, there was a lot of bodies being buried. I mean, that's
a lot of crazy energy. I mean, we were going through, as the living, we were going through so much ourselves, just with lockdowns and this and this and that, and if we were going through it, it stands to reason the spirit world was too.
Yeah.
Because, they're going through chaos at the same time. You've got all these, all this stuff going on. So in the spirit world, they go through chaos. They've got to, because
I know my brother. It took him out, and they didn't even get to have the burial. They had to they cremated. So either way, that was a good one. We did a good talk, and there was a lot going. I'm going to do an outro here in just a second.
Okay.
Was there anything else you wanted to add before I cut it?
I mean, I have a lot more stories, and believe me, I was on Let's Get Freaky. Tommy Cullum. I was on his show. His show was the first one I ever did, and I talked for like 2.5, 3 hours. I mean, because we had a lot in common too, and so I could keep you here all day. And let me tell you, I'm sure you're tired.
When you get to the story thing, if there's a lot to share, between two different people. I mean, because you can sit there forever, and you really can. I can too, but I just try to keep these down to an hour. But
that's fine.
I mean, you should throw your own. I mean, I would suggest you doing your own podcast. I really would.
Maybe someday I will. It would be fun. It would be fun. I do love to talk to people, and I learn so much by talking to people about myself. That's how I started to come to terms with everything that was going on, and how I found some courage to start just openly sharing. It wasn't easy at first, and now it's like, yeah, go ahead, ask me.
Yeah, I mean,
I have no problems now.
I mean, that's the best remedy anyway on anything is to talk it out. Try to
Yeah,
talk it
exactly.
out, and that seems to be the solution. To try to get
Uh-huh.
people that hold it in are the ones that kind of like dwell with it. But if you just talk about it and let it out, get it out of your system because you can't keep it packed in. So, and
I,
that's
I,
why
I
you have
always,
all these stories and you have all these, and they're true events. They're not actually
yeah,
false stories. They're not
absolutely.
made up. I mean, these are true events, and you have
Yeah,
a lot of them.
unfortunately.
So I mean, you're basically a walking book, bottom line. I mean, you really are. I mean,
Paranormal stuff, I've probably experienced, well, a
yeah,
lot more than some, and less than others. That's all I can say about that. I just hope that whenever I, join a podcast or write about it, that maybe my experiences will encourage others to feel a little bit more comfortable about what they're going through, because it's real. This stuff is real. Not
yeah.
everybody experiences it, but there are those of us that have that energy that attracts it. And you know, I was alone for many years. I was alone, literally alone on this journey till I was 57, 58, 59, maybe 60, probably 60. I'm 65 now. So
I
it's
was gonna
been,
say, I was gonna say stop there. You stop right there. Hey, don't go no further. Don't go no further. Don't. Okay, Tony. I guess we're gonna wrap this
well,
up now.
yeah, it was so good talking to you. It's so nice, you know.
It went real good. I appreciate you doing this for us.
Oh,
I
well,
really do.
I appreciate you asking me on. It was real nice talking to you.
Hey, and I'll keep
And I'm
you in
glad you got to
mind.
know me a little bit more.
I'll keep you in mind because you got more stories. Maybe
Oh, I
you
got
never
more.
know. All right. Hey, I appreciate you talking with
Yeah,
us.
you too.
You
Take
did a
care,
good job.
okay?
You did real good. I can tell you've done this before.
Thanks a lot. Have a good evening, dear.
Hey, you too. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, that was Toni Shapiro. We had a great talk. That was excellent. Did y'all? I mean, she has some stories to tell. I mean, I know that she had sent me these pandemic paranormal, malevolent physical attack, and my first paranormal encounter. And I had read these prior to today, and that was they kind of caught my interest, and that's why I wanted to ask her some questions on it. I thought it'd be best just to go ahead and just let her tell us what, more or less, what these were, what she went through, because these were personal things in her life, things that she went through, personal events, should I say. And one of them was similar to one that I had gone through, and we did talk about it. I don't think it'll make the podcast, but either way, I want to thank you guys also for watching Explain Strange podcast, and this is season 2, and thankfully we made season 2. This was episode number 2. Be sure and subscribe. Be sure and hit the like button down there on YouTube. When you see that like button, it's a thumbs up button. Just bam, hit that, and that gives us all kind of credit. It makes us look kind of good, and makes me feel kind of good that you were watching and you liked what you saw. That's basically what it does. Thanks a lot, and that's going to be, as we say, Slap is out.